The year is 34. 3 years ago, the last finitist democracy of the New World collapsed spectacularly. In the intervening years, the Gilded Powers, Oeo, Maris, Elysian, and Aresia, have maintained a careful balancing act between themselves. Shortly following the outbreak of the Fratari Civil War in 31, the Gilded Powers, pressured by Maris, established the Fratari Intervention Concordat, in an effort to prevent any one of the powers from taking advantage of the crisis. This balancing act was costly, both in terms of resources and time. It would not be until 34 that the FIC would finally make coordinated landings and deal killing blows to the beleaguered forces of the Internationalists and Intervalians. Memories of the previous years weigh heavily on the minds of 4 diplomats, now gathered together in an upscale lounge. Its windows overlook the now occupied city of Conflueo. Searchlights affixed to FIC airships illuminate the war-torn ruins of the metropolis. They will not sleep tonight, for there's too much work to be done. Instead, in a blind fury of caffeine and nicotine, these 4 will use the diplomatic blank checks their governments have given them to chart a course for the future of what was once the Fraternal Republic. Each presents ideas, yet the clash of their disparate ideologies and interests forces compromise after compromise until consensus is reached. Elias Lockerbie, Aresia's representative in this meeting, proposes a name, the result of one too many glasses of champagne: Occidentia. It was a rare attempt at humor for the otherwise depressingly serious man, though this was lost on the others present. They misconstrued his meaning, believing he meant it poetically, the spirit of the New World, the Occident made manifest. This was not his intent. He meant it as a sign of the troubles the FIC would soon see: Occidentia, the place of the setting sun. The FIC's brief time together in the light was coming to an end. The nations would soon remember their distaste for one another, now that they lacked a common enemy. The new would manage to stick, much to Lockerbie's frustration. Over several weeks, the skeleton of a framework would take shape. It would take the existing bureaucratic structure of the FIC and use it to establish the Grand Council of the Concordatory Tribunal. It would be up to their armies of mentalists to determine the specifics. This expansion of the Concordat would aim to divide the occupational roles amongst their nations and enable a systematized, albeit fragile, balance of power between themselves. A handful of months later, with the League of United Nations Assemblies being brought on as an observer, the Concordatory Tribunal would establish the Occidental Mandatory Authority, headed by the Consular Office. Appointing a consul for the mandate would test the delicate balancing act the Gilded Powers were managing, resulting in an unorthodox solution suggested by V.B. Wainwright, the Maresian representative, outsourcing the matter to the Luna as a neutral arbitrator. This would result in the appointment of Ambassador Sapia de Vrisho, then the head of Cagario's Luna delegation. De Vrisho, now the mandatory consul, would coordinate the efforts of the OMA and the Concordat while working to piece back together the shattered remains of the occupied nation of Occidentia. With the pieces now arranged on the board, the Concordat would settle one of the few remaining matters of the mandate, that being the capital city of Conflueo. It was decided to divide it between the Gilded Powers, with the creation of 4 occupation zones. Elysian and Maris would ultimately merge their occupations into what is now West Conflueo, whilst Aresia's southeast and Oeo's northeast occupations would begin to clash over border disputes in the spring of 35. The consul would petition the Luna directly, with support from Elysian and Maris, to enforce a demilitarized zone encompassing the capital's 3 occupations, as Aresia and Oeo began to amass troops along their border. Aresian landships would roll up the streets, approaching Oeo border checkpoints in an apparent intimidation tactic. Poor communication and hawkish leadership would result in the Aresian airship Venko being fired at by Oeo anti-air emplacements in response, bringing the crisis to a near breaking point. The crew of the Venko would refrain from returning fire due to internal disagreements, a split-moment decision that prevented the outbreak of fighting between northern and southern forces. As this was unfolding, the Luna would exercise emergency powers to establish a multilateral peacekeeping operation in the region, supported by Intervision and the IBP, while simultaneously opening diplomatic channels with the frantic administrations. representatives of Laboria, Ophiria, Voku, and Great Shilan would be called in to work through backchannels to buy the Luna time. This gamble would pay off, as Aresia and Oweo would finally submit to the demands of the Luna, suspending military operations in their occupations. Occupational forces would soon after be withdrawn, replaced by Luna's peacekeepers. This incident, referred to as the Printempo Crisis, marked the collapse of diplomatic relations between Oweo and Aresia. Only a year removed from it, things have hardly improved. Areostrategists continue their work behind the scenes to maintain what little peace remains, but it's clear that this peace is the prelude to another, far greater calamity, poised to reshape the whole of the Occident. It seems the key lessons of the 99 meltdown and the subsequent Year Zero crisis have been ignored in their entirety. The new world stands on a knife's edge, and it's anyone's guess what will follow. The Astorian implosion marked the end of one era. Will the Occidental explosion define another? Long live Intervale, forever one day away. Till next time.